And I'm not saying that filling out character sheets won't help you find an arc. I'm saying that filling out character sheets can actually make it impossible for you to figure out an arc. Believe me, I get the appeal. I used to download new character sheets and start filling them out anytime I just got an idea for a new book. But I rarely finished them. Halfway through, I'd get tired of trying to come up with physical descriptions, goals, dreams, fears, habits, quirks. And after a while, I realized why. I was kind of randomly assigning these attributes to a character that I didn't fully know yet. And rather than helping me get to know them better, the character sheets were just making me lose interest. Not only that, I really believe this can actually hurt your story. When you fill out a character sheet at the start of a project, especially if you're doing one for all of the main players in your book, it's really easy to kind of accidentally slip into stereotypes because you're taking this checklist and saying, boom, 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 this is who this character is. But humans are more than checklists, and so are characters. Honestly, I don't fully know a character until after I write the first draft. And yes, a few times that's resulted in me needing to completely rewrite the book. But I've learned how to find my protagonist's arc in the outlining stage or just in the brainstorming stage of writing a book. And that's what I want to share with you today. It is possible to create a character arc before you write your draft. The first step is to throw out those character sheets, or just save them for later because they really are handy for revisions. But character arcs aren't about whether or not your protagonist has glasses or a fear of spiders or enjoys skydiving on the weekends. A character's arc comes down to one thing: transformation. If you know how your character is going to be a different person on the last page of your novel compared to the first page of your novel, then you've got an arc. In previous videos, I've talked about want versus need. At the start of your story, your character wants something and your character needs something that she might or might not realize that she needs. The climax of your story is going to come down to whether or not she gets those things. The fact that these two things are different and that your character is so focused on her want and often ignores her need, again, if she's even aware of it, and the fact that they keep bumping up together is what's going to cause friction and tension in your story, because what it comes down to is that your character thinks she's fighting this battle, but really she's fighting this battle. Let's do an example. Take a protagonist who, at the beginning of a book, she wants her ex-husband back. And let's give her a second one. She wants to solve the mystery of the disappearance of a local woman. She thinks that maybe if she can get it together, stop drinking so much, and fix her flaws, she can have both of these things. But what she needs is to figure out why she drinks so much, why she drinks herself into blackouts. In Girl on the Train, Rachel spends half the book obsessing over her ex-husband and chasing the completely wrong bad guy, all while ignoring her need, which is to figure out what's at the root of her alcoholism. The very entertaining result is that up until halfway through the book, we think she's on the right path. At the midpoint, she seems to have achieved one of her goals, solving the mystery of what happened to this woman. But then, of course, the story goes completely sideways and everything comes crashing down around her. It's only when Rachel finally confronts the painful truth behind her alcoholism that she recognizes the true villain of the story and finally defeats him, or doesn't, no spoilers. The reason Girl on the Train has such a satisfying ending is because great stories aren't about a protagonist getting what she wants. It's about how the journey transformed her and made her address her needs. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, Michelle, but what does this have to do with character sheets? Writers don't use character sheets to come up with arcs. They use character sheets to figure out who a character is. But who a character is directly tied into their arc. And I'm not saying that filling out character sheets won't help you find an arc. I'm saying that filling out character sheets can actually make it impossible for you to figure out an arc. Because once you fill out a character sheet and you've made this checklist for your character, as you write your draft, you're going to be trying to find ways to justify all of these hopes, dreams, fears, quirks, habits that you've assigned to this character. You're going to be flailing around trying to find the core of her to justify all of these things, but the core doesn't exist yet because all of those things stem from who she is, or at least they should. So you have to find the core first. Okay, so how can we figure out who your character is and figure out who she's going to become by the end of your story before you actually write the story? I've got an exercise for you to try. Now, in every writing workshop Wednesday up until now, I've only used exercises that I've actually done in workshops that I've taught in the past. I've never done this exercise with a group before, but it's something I've been doing for myself in the last few drafts I've written, and it's really worked for me. So I'm hoping it's gonna work for you too. And the best thing about this is it doesn't matter if you have an outline, if you know what your plot's going to be. If you're a pantser, never fear, you can do this too, because the plot beats don't really matter for this exercise. You've probably heard about the therapeutic exercise of writing a letter to your younger self. So that's what we're gonna do here. I want you to imagine your character at the end of your story. This is not the same character that you had on page 1. Have your transformed main character write a letter to herself at the very beginning of the novel. Write this in first person and have her address her past self as you. Now, if you do have any plot beats or anything you want to include, by all means include them. But remember, this isn't about plot. It isn't about what happens in the novel. It's about how it changed her. It's about how she feels and what she wishes she knew back then. She's going to be giving her past self advice on how to better prepare for what's coming. So for example, let's say your protagonist has a really contentious relationship with her mother, and you, the author, know that at some point in your novel, her mother is going to pass away. The letter that she writes isn't going to focus on when it happened, how it happened, or even the moment it happened. It will focus on that relationship and what your character would have done differently in the chapters leading up to that moment had she known it was coming. It might be a letter filled with grief or regret or relief. Be honest, even if it's brutal. Let your character speak. So remember, again, you're not reverse engineering your plot here. This isn't your character saying, hey, younger self, here's what's going to happen to you. She's saying, here's what you need to know because you are completely unprepared for what's coming. This letter is going to show you how your character grows over the course of your story, and you can use that to start to identify what she's going to go through, what revelations had to happen to get her to that point. Habits and quirks and dreams and dislikes, all that stuff, they're not arbitrary things that we have. They stem from something, from some experience or just who we are and who makes us up at the core. So when you fill out a character sheet and you're assigning all of these things in the hope that throwing them all at the wall is going to help you find that person's core, it doesn't really work. But when you identify the core of your character first, when you figure out what her journey is going to be, all of her habits, quirks, fears, hopes, dreams, likes and dislikes, they're going to emerge organically because you know who she is. So find the core first by identifying how your character is going to transform over the course of your novel, and then send them on that journey. Speaking of beginnings and endings, next week's Writing Workshop Wednesday is going to be all about how to end a scene with the right emotional resonance. So be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe if you haven't already so that you know when that video goes up. And if you found this video helpful, of course, I would very much appreciate a thumbs up. That's it for today, and until next time, keep writing.